Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Conversations from Stritch. I'm Christopher Sent, Provost at Lewis, and President Livingston is not able to be with us here today, but I'm really excited to be here and excited to welcome some guests a little bit later on, Professors Mike McFerron and James Tallon, to the show to talk about a range of issues, including our Arts and Ideas programming. I want to make a couple of announcements before I introduce our guests. First of all, our team continues to work on responding to COVID-19 cases, contact tracing, supporting students and employees. As of this afternoon, we have reports of about 10 new cases since last Friday, so over the last week period, all of whom are students-related cases. Starting tomorrow on our web tracker, we will separate employees from students so people can see more clearly that differentiation. And over the next week, we'll continue to make refinements to the tracker so people can have more information about how that is going. I just want to make one reminder how important it is to do the health screening every day if you're coming to campus or if you are a residential student, to use the QR codes at all times when entering and attending classes, and to abide by all of our rules in the Flyers Promise, and especially rules related to quarantine and isolation. One other thing that's going on today is that we have COVID-19 testing from the Will County Health Department happening on campus. About 80 or so targeted students are being tested today. We're going to do something similar to that next Thursday, and then I want to announce especially today that there is a COVID-19 testing next Sunday on, I'm going to get this right, on September 20th. The Illinois Department of Public Health is providing free testing for on our campus for the local community, including our community, and especially our community. You don't need an appointment to attend that, and it's a testing experience where you drive by in your car and you get tested without exiting your car. Students who are interested in testing and haven't been invited to one of the tests this week or next week can do that as well, and if you don't have a car, we're going to set up a walk-up way to practice that as well. So all of that will be announced to our community in the next couple of days. So again, that's September 20th, 9 to 5, no appointment necessary, first come, first served basis. We've talked on the show about various events, especially student activities over the course of the summer leading up into the fall semester, and I guess most recently in relationship to welcome events. And the focus of today's show is really about a lot of the different types of programming that we have to continue our community experience, to forward our mission, and to forward the academic and co-curricular experience of our university over the next few months. I'm going to make a couple of announcements on some really relatively large events in September, and then bring on our guest to talk about the Arts and Ideas program. So we do have a Student Life Fair this Wednesday. Announcements about that next Wednesday and next week. Announcements about that going out soon. Also, that is the same day as the Mass of the Holy Spirit, which is virtual at 11 a.m. on September 16th. There is Virtual Family Day is scheduled for September 29th starting at 11 a.m. I'm really excited about how our student life and student activities staff and students who are working on this have developed in a really, really amazing family program for that day in a virtual format that includes contests, yoga, and mindfulness, family recipe sharing, improv, and a late afternoon mass, as always. And then the last thing I'll mention is the Signum Fidei celebration will be live streamed also on October 24th at 7 p.m. And this year we'll continue many of the traditions of Signum Fidei that have been going on for years, addresses and greetings by President Livingston and Tom Skilling, and my favorite, the comments by several students who have received the benefits of the mission fund over the last couple of years. So again, information about all those events will be coming out in various forms in the coming days and weeks if you have not already received invitations for those events. So now I want to take a deeper dive into learning about a central part of our co-curricular, intellectual, and artistic milieu at Lewis, the Arts and Ideas program. And I'll say also it's an opportunity that President Livingston and I have been talking about as we move into the fall with the conversations from Stritch, to just go a little bit deeper into particular topics and people, and to learn more about our faculty interests, to learn more about particular programs that are happening on campus or offices. One of the things we've noted as we've done this, conversations from Stritch over, I don't know what it is now, 16 or 17 weeks, is that many of the members of our community have commented that they've learned a lot about Lewis in the process of watching, really to find out more about the COVID-19 crisis. And so we want to take advantage, we want to learn from what we heard about that, and just get to know more people and get to know more of the, showcase more of the great things that are going on at Lewis. This is a little bit of a combination of those things. So that's my way of saying that my introductions today are going to be slightly longer than they usually are, because I really want you to learn a little bit about these two guests before bringing them on. So first, Professor Mike McFerron is the chair of our Department of Music and composer in residence at Lewis University. In addition to teaching music composition, theory, and technology at Lewis, Professor McFerron is co-director of the Electronic Music Midwest Festival. His compositions have been widely praised and performed by the likes of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the Louisville Orchestra, and many others. His chamber opera called Loving Is premiered at Carnegie Hall last year. I think it was last year. Time is a little elusive right now, but recently. And then Professor James Tallon is a professor of history at Lewis and a scholar of Near Eastern languages and civilizations. He has written and published specifically on the military and war in Ottoman society, specifically focusing on the early 20th century. So please welcome Professors Mike McFerron and James Tallon. Hello, gentlemen. Nice to see you.
Hi, Dr. Sent.
Great. I'm so excited that we're here with me today, and I'm really looking forward to talking a little bit. So maybe the first thing is to just ask a little bit about Arts and Ideas. Many of the people watching may not know, may be new to Lewis as students, or maybe families of students at Lewis, and so I guess I'll just start just a little bit of a question about what is Arts and Ideas, and maybe Mike, I'll direct that to you, and you two can divide up how you want to answer that question.
Sure, thanks. So Arts and Ideas is one of those programs at Lewis that I think makes our university, it began 1985 by Brother Paul and Chet Kondratowicz of the theater. So we're celebrating here, and the goal is really to augment the class through performances and panel discussions. We typically semester will have 100 and 100 minutes. We have, I mean, how it started is kind of interesting. Brother Paul had spent some time at Oxford University, and he was really excited to learn about these different programs that were happening. And he would walk around at Oxford, and he would pull down these white sheets of paper that would say, "Come to this lecture at 2 o'clock today." And so that was something that Brother Paul wanted to bring back to Lewis. And although we don't do printed tickets anymore, we have a number of opportunities to attend events and predominantly advertise those through our portal or on. Jim, what do you want to add?
Yeah, this is a immersive opportunity for students to get information about the wider world outside of class and try to integrate some of the things that they learn in class into a wider experience. And we draw from all corners of the university, not just humanities, social sciences, professional programs, health and wellness. And we provide a kind of space where those programs are offered to the wider university.
So it's really like a it's like a co-curricular net that encompasses all of the different fields and disciplines that Lewis has to offer, and it's a extraordinary. You know, when I first came to Lewis, I was just so amazed at how just at the not only the organization that it takes to put on all these events, and I know many people are putting on individual events that are included in Arts and Ideas, but it's an incredible resource to see all of the different things that are happening on a given day. And I know that's something that really makes a university a university. I know if President Livingston were here, he would definitely point that out. Something we talk about a lot is that one of the great things about being at a university is I don't know about accidentally realizing that there's an incredible scholar speaking this afternoon at 4 o'clock, or there's a chamber orchestra or chamber singing that's going to happen tonight, and you can just stop by and watch it happen. And just that liveliness of a university is really just embodied by, I think, by the Arts and Ideas program, and I think that's so exciting. And I love that history, Mike, and its connections to sort of other universities' ways of going about their business. So this is obviously a unique year, a different year. I wonder, maybe Jim, I'll ask you to start. What considerations went into this particular year, knowing that we have unique limitations, unique opportunities, I hope, to provide some different types of programming?
As we came into July, it became pretty clear that this was going to be different. And so we began to explore different platforms and ways to get our programs out to students. And we've tested out different platforms to deliver this content. And in a certain way, what's become interesting is that we're beginning to imagine ways moving forward that we can deliver this to students after COVID, after this quarantine, after these limitations. So that's been the most interesting thing for us so far, is this exploration of how to do this.
Yeah, interesting. Mike, do you have any other thoughts about what the conversations have been like?
Sure. So one of the, Jim sort of touched on this, but we're also looking at how we're able to leverage the technology to create really unique experiences for the student. And there perhaps might be breaking some rules if you were to go to the event in person, might now be acceptable when you're attending. The best example of that is going to an event and seeing a conversation to emerge in the chat window.
Yeah.
And our hope is that the people that are presenting embrace that technology, try to bring that conversation. So, I see that in a lot of ways. Sure, we would rather be seeing students in person and engaging in that way. But there's also benefits that we've identified for this year that I think might stay as we continue ideas. So it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a happy accident.
Yeah. And I'm curious, you've probably been in contact with some of the artists, some of the speakers who are coming. How have they responded to the request to do things virtually, and have they had any ideas or creativity about different ways of approaching any of the types of performances that we have?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot
In
to
addition
point out who I was asking the question. Yeah.
Ideas. We do typically 4 performing arts series. We bring in an outside performer. And this semester, we decided that we were going to do less, but we were going to try to do better. And so we professionally webcast our performing arts series. And, you know, one of those groups, or one of the people coming in particular, her event will require some talk back after performance. And our hope is that we engage a broader audience, not just an audience that's geographically located near us. To see this event, I don't know if you guys can pull up our website, which is lartsandideas.org. This website provides really the portal for arts and ideas. At the very top, students will be able to see how they attend online events. And for those students that are required to attend events for class, there's instructions on how they should check in and check out. Scrolling down, you can see our 2 events for this fall. We have Unveiled, which is a very talented playwright and actress, Malik. It's a one-person show that we'll be doing in the Philippines Theater on October 10th. And during this event, we'll take on the personality of 5 different people having tea and talking about racism and love and Islam culture and just basically life. We're really excited about this event and relevancy for us, and we hope that it leads to a wonderful conversation before and after the event. I also want to sort of circle back on the history of arts and ideas, what we typically do. In addition to doing one-off events or panel discussions, we also do series. And this piece, Unveiled, is part of our pieces, teach-in series. And so they will be incorporating themes and topics of this performance in their programming as well. So in a lot of ways, arts and ideas is help foster this sort of sense of community. It's really easy, especially during the pandemic, to become more detached and lonesome, feeling lonesome. And our hope is that events like this, incorporated into our series of events, will help provide some sense of community for our students and for our residents.
Yeah.
Scrolling down the page, guys, if you could. Sorry, you've maybe left. We could go back to cover a couple of things on here. Further down at the very bottom, you'll see the calendar. All of our events will be listed here. Instead of 150 events this semester, we're looking closer to 58. And our goal is to really spend more time making those events really great and more engagement for audiences. But all of the events down here will, by clicking on an event calendar, you'll link to where to go to visit or to participate in the event. It's important to note that some of the events, like the Performing Arts Series events, due to contractual obligations, will not be saved in archived. So performances that once they're done, they're gone. So I encourage everybody to come to concerts and the performances and enjoy them.
That's really interesting. So, Mike, you were breaking up a tiny bit there, and I think what I heard you say is that one of the interesting aspects about this is that these are live performances, and they are not being recorded or repeated. They are live, and so they're in that way they are unlike a lot of things like this show that we're doing right now is being recorded and people can watch it whenever they want. this is the kind of students can learn, or all of us can learn together, that these presentations, these productions of pieces of art are somewhat temporary, numinous. They are best in the moment together in community. I love that idea, by the way, of the chat. I've thought about this just sitting in Zoom meetings a lot over the last 6 months, where it seems to be people have developed habits around how to chat in these Zoom meetings or WebEx meetings, and it often brings out real great ideas and personalities in people who may not typically talk in meetings. And so I love the idea, a student who's going to a lecture when there's, by a great scholar and there's 60 people in the audience, they may not be brave enough to ask a question, but they may be able to engage in chat during the lecture. And I love the idea of having the freedom to do that during this. Jim, do you want to, are there any particular, Mike mentioned a few of those great ones that are coming up. Is there anything in particular of those 58 events this semester that you're particularly excited about?
Some of the things related to the Common Reader this year, the Journeys to Sort of Purpose, I think those are always interesting, and that students get a lot out of those. There's a lot of other events that showcase certain programs here at Lewis, peace studies, women's studies, foreign language, and those are good. People generally like those. As Mike has said, we pared back, so we have a sort of limited focus, and that tends to be, there are more than that, but that tends to be the main focus of this semester.
That's great. Thank you. I'll just say out loud, I noticed on the website that the website is the portal for people who want to attend these or who are planning to attend them. It looks like there's a really easy way to push a button and attend when the time is right and so on. So I won't dwell on that here, but people can go back to that Arts and Ideas website to look at the menu of what's coming up, and as well as the calendar as what's coming up. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and ask Jim, you, first of all, I guess I want to ask you a little bit about your scholarship, but tell me how it's going the last couple of weeks. This is the end of our second week almost, and what has it been like to prepare to teach in this environment, to do it, is anything the same, I guess is one way of asking the question.
So nothing is the same, but there are sort of rudiments of the old way of doing things. What I tried to accept is that you have to be prepared to make mistakes, both me and the students. And with that in mind, I forgive myself a lot, and I tend to be more understanding of students. And that has given me a better sort of headspace in which to tackle what we're going through. I've tried to prepare as best I can. There's been some challenges, but for the most part, I'm pretty good.
That's great. And that's a really interesting way of looking at it. So let me ask you a little bit about, I'm going to try to be careful with my words here because I know everyone has been so busy doing other things besides scholarship, and typically at the end of the summer, it's a great time to ask people, what did you work on this summer? And it may not be, this last summer may not fit that bill, but so I'll ask, I like it when people ask me, what am I thinking about? So I'll ask I'll ask the question that way. So what are you thinking about writing about? What are you writing about, if you are? And so what is your kind of project, either in any form, at any maturity of how it's going?
I have 2 projects I'm working on. One's a manuscript on rebellion in Ottoman Albania, and that's close to being done. The other is a study of the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East throughout a sort of long World War I, not just 1914 to 1918, but sort of conflict before and conflict after, that are connected to that. And that ongoing conflict is an interesting way to think about the unresolved nature of the Middle East and why, in certain ways, in certain parts of the Middle East, there's these grinding societal political issues that don't seem to go away, whereas other places they're fixed or they're solved. Those are the things I'm thinking about most right now.
So you're talking about kind of particular characteristics of conflict in the Middle East that are dating back to before the 20th century began, and seeing closer connections between the way the kind of culture functioned at that time to the way it is functioning currently.
And additionally, a conceptual thing, which is when we talk about the First World War, it's really a Western European lens, and that lens immediately ends the war in 1918, and it has to begin in 1914, which is useful if you're in Western Europe.
Yeah.
But if you're in Eastern Europe or in the Middle East, it's less helpful, and it doesn't give you a way to understand why these things don't go.
Oh, very interesting. So, you know, many people watching are students right now, and I'm just curious. I guess I just want to ask, why and when did you get interested in this area?
I wish I had a really good origin story, like a superhero, but I don't. I started reading about this when I was an undergraduate, and I became more and more interested in it. I got a master's degree, and then at a certain point, it becomes your job, and that's what you do.
Yeah, and it's obviously still, you know, you continue to do it because it's what's driving your mind and your passion about more questions and more connections, and it's obviously a, you know, deeply prescient topic right now, and I guess one of your points is that it has always been for a long time, but it is. I'm so glad that you're here and you're doing that work at Lewis. Mike, so I'm going to ask you the same question. What are you working on? What are you thinking about? How's it going? Oh, yeah, let me ask you that question first. How are the first 2 weeks going of the fall semester?
Well, you know, interesting. I think for everybody. I'm kind of, so I'm really enjoying it. I would rather be in the same space with my students.
Yeah.
But I'm also discovering technology is that I haven't used in the past. I teach a class that I've taught for 20 years, and it's been completely sort of redesigned for this delivery modality. And I got to say, I'm not sure if I would want to go back to the way. So I would say, in a lot of ways, the first weeks have been a roller coaster. There have been things that have worked well, like that class, and other things that I need to continue to work on. And so,
Sure.
you know, that's how it's going.
Yeah, thank you. And so now I'll ask, what are you thinking about? What are you working on with your music, or with anything else that you're working on in your scholarship?
Well, so my area of scholarship is as a composer, and so during the pandemic, quite a bit of music. But something that has really forefront of my mind is how we engage with art and how we engage with media, and what that kind of looks like. And so I spent the last, hard to believe, 10 months, 9 months, 8 months, working in virtual reality.
Oh.
And so as a composer, what's most important is how one gets a physical idea out of their head onto paper or into some format to where it becomes music. And sometimes composers sit at a piano. I do that. Sometimes computer screen and type notation program. Sometimes they handwrite it, pencils and paper. But I've been composing virtual reality, and so I think I reach it here. I've been using these virtual reality goggles, and I go inside this special world where I drop sounds in them and organize them, and try to do textures, physical gestures. And it's been a wonderful learning experience to think about how it affects the creative process. I'm a firm believer that the way that we engage with media in the future and about art, and we think about how we interact with one another, I think that a lot in VR. And so I'm pretty excited about this project. Of course, at the end of the day, I have to actually produce something, and that's proved to be a little bit more difficult because I'm working out working out technical issues. I'm also kind of getting absorbed into the technology, and I keep sometimes forgetting that I also need to be an artist, expressive, and so that's kind of a real fun process to work as a composer. So right now I'm trying to write a piece for a virtual reality performer, and then ultimately I hope to write a piece for some type of ensemble in a virtual reality where the performer is getting sounds from live players and moving around in a virtual space that then gets back out to an audience.
That's fascinating. Are there other composers who are working with virtual reality? I've never heard of that.
There are not very many. In fact, the person that I worked with the most on this, it was a composition professor at Illinois, Roy Magnuson. He's known for writing concert band music, and now concert band music is VR. There's a couple of other composers that are using performance, but not many that I know of that are using it for creating music, for composing.
Interesting. Wow, that's really sounds like amazing work, Mike. I'm so glad you're working on that, and super exciting. I can't wait to see what the outcome is. So Mike, you're still breaking up a tiny bit, so I think I might just draw us to a close slowly and make some final announcements. And first I'll ask if each of you has any final comments you want to make, anything I should have asked you about Arts and Ideas, or just about how you're feeling right now or what you're learning from this experience. So Jim, I'll start with you. Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts would be is that even though Arts and Ideas is in a unique format this semester, I really encourage students to take advantage of the programs we have, including and especially the live performances, which I think are going to be very interesting. And I think even though it feels like another Zoom call, I think it'll be a very different thing, and I think students will enjoy it.
Great, thank you. Mike, final comment?
Yeah, I want to encourage everybody to make sure that they missed it. The website is luartsandideas.org. That will have all of our upcoming events. It's a dynamic site, so as events change, that site will be automatically updated. I think it's really important for us at Lewis, in whatever ways you're able, to create a sense of community. And I think that Arts and Ideas this fall in particular can help us with that goal.
Yeah, thank you so much. Please go to the website. Yeah, that's really what I've been thinking as I've been processing, listening to each of you talk, is first of all that our co-curricular activities and that area between, that gray area between the classroom and the co-curricular life at Lewis is so vitally important part of the experience, is one thing on my mind. And as you said, in order to not only learn but to create community and see how other communities are working in the different fields that are being highlighted through the programming. And then also I would say that it's really clear. I mean, it's a reminder to me of something I think about periodically through these last 7 months or so, is how this experience is making us rethink or remember the core elements of why we are doing each of the things that we're doing, and that may relate to what a classroom is, it may relate to what a meeting is, or anything that we're working on. But it's certainly, I loved the idea of you having to do that, or I love that you embraced the burden and the responsibility of having to think about what is an event, what makes it really tick, and what makes community come together around both learning and appreciating an event in this whole range of different disciplines and artistic disciplines. So thank you very much, Mike and Jim, for taking your time this afternoon to be with us and to record this with us. Thanks to John and Joe, and to Catherine Skonecki, who have helped out today. I'll be back with the president next week for another edition. God bless you and your families, and have a safe and healthy week. Take care.